Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We start another paper 5. This is the same paper 5 which I've just done a video of it, and this is now I'm going to discuss the question 2. This is November 22 question paper 5.3. Now starting with question number 2, Holstein cattle have been selectively bred for their high milk production. Now here's a picture of an Holstein cattle, and these are very beautiful cows, and they are of course bred for their very high milk production. So you can see, you must be able to picturize this whole thing. The seed of the cotton plant Gossypium spp is a good source of fiber, protein and carbohydrate. To improve milk production, whole cottonseed or cottonseed meal can be added to livestock feed. Cottonseed meal is cottonseed that has been processed by grinding. Figure 2.1a shows the whole cottonseed and 2.1b shows the cottonseed meal. Now, as we read the question, you can see these were the whole seeds, and then this was the cottonseed meal in which it was grinded and was crushed and was just like a powder. Now, we want to discuss something else. Free Gossypol is a toxin found in cotton seeds. Some of this free Gossypol binds to protein to form bound Gossypol. So the free Gossypol becomes the bound Gossypol, and this occurs during cottonseed meal production and in the rumen, the stomach, the forestomach of the cow during microorganism fermentation. So free Gossypol is a toxin, and some of the free binds to protein to form bound Gossypol, and this occurs during the cottonseed meal production, either when we are doing this or in the stomach of the cow during microorganism fermentation. Free Gossypol is easily absorbed, but bound Gossypol is absorbed less easily and is not toxic. So free Gossypol is a toxin and it is easily absorbed, while the bound Gossypol is absorbed less easily and is not toxic. That's why I say reading the question is the art of doing paper 5. First, you have to read the question, understand the question, read it twice, read it thrice, and then make little notes on it that, okay, free Gossypol is a toxin found in cottonseed. Some of this free Gossypol binds to proteins to form bound Gossypol, and the free Gossypol is easily absorbed, while the bound one is absorbed less easily and is not toxic. An investigation was carried out on the effect of different dry matter diets on lactating milk producing Holstein cows. 30 healthy cows were fed on the same cottonseed free diet for 14 days. So we took 30 healthy cows, not the ones which were diseased or there were some issues with them. So we took healthy cows and we fed them on the cottonseed free diet. We gave them some ordinary diet, but it didn't have any cottonseed in it. The cows were then divided equally into 5 groups, A to E, and then fed on one of 5 experimental diets for 42 days. The quantity of milk produced each day was recorded. The cows had no visible signs of illness during the 42 days. For each diet, table 2.1 shows the cottonseed content and the total Gossypol free and bound, the mean daily dry matter taken in during feeding, and the mean daily lactation performance, which is the milk yield. So for table 2.1, you need to be looking at all these figures very, very carefully. SE stands for standard error, and we have groups A, B, C, D, and E. A is cottonseed replaced by soybean meal, whole cottonseed 0, cottonseed meal 0. Total Gossypol in diet was 0. Dry matter intake in kilogram per day, and the standard error was 1.4, 24.8. The milk yield in kilograms per day, and the standard error is 1.3, is 27.6. Then B was whole cottonseed, 15 was the whole cottonseed, 0 was the cottonseed meal, 1039.7 was the total Gossypol in milligrams per kilogram, and 23.6 was the dry matter, and 29.7 was the milk yield. Then C was cottonseed meal 0, 7.0, 900, 23, 27.9. Then D was mixed one, whole cottonseed and cottonseed meal. This was 7.5 whole cottonseed, 3.5 cottonseed meal. 959 was the total Gossypol, 22.6 dry matter, and milk yield was 28.7. Mix 2 was whole cottonseed and cotton meal, was 15.0 was the whole and 7.0 was the cottonseed meal. And 1922 was the total Gossypol and 24 was the dry matter and milk yield was 32.6. So you see this is the highest milk yield and the lowest milk yield is this one. So look at that very carefully, look at all this table again, read the table again, explain the table to yourself. The differences in the dry matter intake for groups A to E were not statistically significant. Explain why the cows are all fed on the same cottonseed free diet for 14 days. Why did we feed them on a cottonseed free diet? You ensured that there was no Gossypol in any of the cows beforehand, before we started the experiment. So we must standardize it first, because if you were giving them Gossypol, then maybe you were giving some less or some more. So to ensure that there was no Gossypol in any of the cows, the idea was the feeding on the same diet, standardize the cows at the start of the experiment so that it's a fair test. That none of them were getting that for the 14 days to ensure no Gossypol in any of the cows at the start of the experiment. Now coming to the B part of the question, using the information provided and the results shown in table 2.1, a student made some statements about the effect of feeding different diets to lactating Holstein cows. The student suggested that if the investigation is repeated, the groups of cows will produce milk in this order: E, B, D, C, A. So highest quantity E, then B, then D, then C, then A. With reference to table 2.1, explain why the statement made by the student is not supported by the data. So then that means you have to go back to table 2.1. So let's go back to table 2.1. This is table 2.1. Now, how does this not? The milk yields are very close, similar between each group: 27.6, 29, 27, 28.7, and 32.6. So the milk yields are very close, similar between the groups. Then no statistical test has been carried out. There has been no t-test which we have carried out. Then there's an overlap of the standard error, which means then no significant difference. Then which groups are significantly different? So not significantly different are A and B, maybe significantly different are A and E, not significantly different are A and C, not significantly different are A and D, B and C not significantly different either, and then B and D are also not significantly different, and C and D are also not significantly different. But maybe significantly different are A and E, and B and E, and C and E, and D and E. So details we have given, if you have given me the details, you get one more mark for that. So there were 3 marks for this. Which groups are not and which may be significantly different? Now I'm just going to discuss that in a little detail. Now what you have to understand is that they were asking you to look at the milk yield. So many students realized that the standard error for each group's milk yield was overlapping. You see 27.6 plus 1.3 minus 1.3, the standard error bars. How do you make the error bars on it? Plus 1.3 and minus 1.3. So there was an overlap, and the overlap was between A, B, C, and D. So if you just add 27.6 plus 1.3, 29.7, 1.3, 27.9, 1.3, 28.7, 1.3. So there's an overlap of the error bars. And this overlap of the error bars is a very important indication that therefore it was not significantly different. So milk yield very similar between groups. Then number 2, no statistical test carried out. Then overlap of standard error. So then no significant difference. Not different was A, B, A, C, A, D, B, C, B, D, and C, D. Maybe significantly different were A, B, B, E, C, E, and D, E. Now we say scientists, part 2 of the question, scientists are developing cotton plants that are genetically modified to produce seeds lacking Gossypol. Table 2.1 suggests that there may be a link between total Gossypol in the diet and milk yield. The student stated that repeating the investigation with no Gossypol in diets B to E would result in a lower milk yield for each group. Explain whether or not table 2.1 provides enough evidence to support the statement made by the student. So we go back to table 2.1 and we again have a look at it. So is there enough evidence? Because trend that as Gossypol increases, milk yield increases. So there is enough evidence because there are Gossypol increases, milk yield increases. And then you could give me a data quote. Like total Gossypol was 1922 here, the highest. And then the milk yield is the highest here, 32.6. So Gossypol in diet increases, milk yield also increases. So if you gave me a data quote, data means you give me data from the table, well, you got a mark for that. And where there was not enough evidence, no information that differences in milk yield are caused by differences in Gossypol, no information on the nutritional content. There is no cottonseed in A, so cannot compare with B to E. And then there's no statistical test for us to really say, okay, well, this is like this. So you had to give me reasons for number one, provides support and not enough evidence. So you always give me 2 points for that and 2 points for that so that you show to get your 2 out of 2 in this. So if you just write these, explain whether or not provides enough evidence to support. So you always have to give something in support and something in not in support. So always remember that when you're answering this question, give me some information about how it is supporting and how it is not supporting. So as Gossypol increases, milk yield increases. Yes, 1922, so 32.6 kilos. Not enough evidence, no information on the nutritional content. There's no cottonseed in A, so you cannot compare it with B to E. And then, of course, we did not do any statistical test. So if we did not do a statistical test, then we cannot say definitely, okay, this is the effect because of this. So please do remember to write this, that there's no statistical test or there is no t-test carried out. T-test is the one in which we compare two different experiments on some sort of an information that we are testing. Now coming to the C part of the question, higher concentration of Gossypol absorbed into the circulation can cause an illness in cows known as Gossypol toxicity. Low concentration of Gossypol can be detoxified in the liver. Detoxified in the liver. During the investigation, the Gossypol intake for each cow was measured and analyzed. At the end of the investigation, day 42, the blood plasma Gossypol concentration of each cow was also measured. Figure 2.2 shows the free Gossypol intake for each cow, 10, 20, 30, 40, plotted against the concentration of Gossypol in the plasma in micrograms per cm cube on day 42. So now you can see there is some sort of a positive correlation. As free Gossypol intake increases, plasma Gossypol concentration increases. And with reference to figure 2.2, explain whether there is a relationship between the free Gossypol and the plasma concentration on day 42. On day 42, of course, we are coming to here what we are going to day 42. So as it is increased, we can see. So it was a simple 1 mark question. As free Gossypol intake increases, plasma Gossypol concentration increases, or you can say it shows a positive correlation. It shows a positive correlation. So this was the 1 mark in which you had to write positive correlation. Or you could have said as free Gossypol intake increases, plasma Gossypol concentration increases. Then coming to the part 2 of the question, Gossypol produced by cotton plants can be found in two forms, the negative isomer and the positive isomer. The negative isomer has higher biological activity within cells and is much more toxic than the positive isomer. So the negative isomer is much more toxic. Both forms can bind protein to become bound Gossypol. Table 2.2 summarizes the mean daily Gossypol intake for the 5 different experimental groups of lactating Holstein cows. Table 2.2, you need to look at it very carefully. The investigators knew that different diets presented different levels of risk of causing Gossypol toxicity in cows. For example, the diet for group A cows did not present any risk or toxicity. So this was not the one which was toxicity. With the reference to table 2.2, discuss the extent to which the different experimental diets for groups B, C, D, and E present a risk of causing Gossypol toxicity. Now let's look at the table very carefully. Description of the dry matter diet, total Gossypol intake, free Gossypol, bound Gossypol, and negative isomer. Now, what did we learn? Which one was the bad one? The negative isomer is higher biological activity than cell and is much more toxic. So the negative isomer was the bad guy. Just like negative people are bad people in your life. If you have any, please stay away. So negative intake. So negative isomers were the one which was. So group E. Why is group E the worst? It has the highest negative isomers. So group E has the highest risk of toxicity. And group C has the lowest risk because it has the lowest negative isomers. Now the sequence of risk highest to lowest was E, B, D, and then C. So E, B, D, C. This was the sequence of risk highest to lowest. The highest were E, then B, then D, then C. Then higher was more free Gossypol and negative isomer values for the highest risks. Then you gave me a paired data code, table 2.2, to either support this, that this was the one which had more negative isomers and it had more free Gossypol. So if you give me this data code, well, I'd give you a mark for that. Free Gossypol will be easily absorbed and more toxic than the bound Gossypol. Again, we're giving things from the question. And then, of course, we are uncertain how much free Gossypol turns into bound Gossypol when eaten. So things that we were not very clear about, we mentioned those as well. And things that we sort of gather from the data, we think we write those as well. So of course, this is a lot of very important skills which you must develop. First, reading the question. Now, when you're watching this video, I expected you to have done this paper before and then watch my video. Some of you write in the comments that please do not write. Well, please, you must download this paper and do this and read this paper and try to do it on your own and then see my video. You all should have this. It's available online. You just Google it, just write November 22, paper 5.3, and I'm sure you can get it. Everybody has these papers. It's not so difficult. Everything is available online. Now, just wording it for you so that you can see how we word the answer. Group E has the highest risk of toxicity, sequence of risk E, B, D, C, higher free Gossypol and negative isomer values for higher risks than data code E, um, 25.2 and 18.3 with the units, then free Gossypol easily absorbed and more toxic. Again, something which was given in the question. Uncertain how much free Gossypol turns into bound Gossypol when eaten. So something which was not very clear from the diagram, but you thought of it. So all these things will, when we say with reference to table 2.2 discuss, so this is what we have to understand is where do we discuss and how do we do this. This completes the November 22 paper 5.3, the paper 5 which some of you have been asking me to do and discuss these. I will try and discuss a few more paper 5s as well, and wish you all the best and thank you very much for subscribing and thank you for watching.